Hey everyone, Onita here. How are you all going? Let us talk about my April wrap-up. So I read a total of 5 books and I gave one book a DNF. Let's talk about the DNF. It was Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, the first book in the Thomas Cromwell trilogy, where it follows Thomas Cromwell as he rises to be an advisor to Henry VIII. No, this book won the main Booker Prize. I don't know why, because I personally did not like it, did not work for me. Very confusing. Just the style of writing, it kind of felt a little bit like a bibliography, yet at the same time it was kind of like a story, like a fictional story. I don't even know what I'm saying because nothing really retained in my brain, so I did not like it. It was very confusing. You don't really know if it's talking about Thomas Cromwell or another Thomas because there are so many Thomases mentioned in this book. It's pretty similar to Aegon in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, but I understand that family tree, that family history a little bit better than I do with this book right here. No, I don't see myself picking it up. I did not even see myself picking it up any time for me to want to continue on with it. I just really lost interest very quickly because of the way that it was written. I felt like it was really overworded, it was overwritten. There were a lot of paragraphs that could have easily been cut out because they did not hold any value. There were some parts that were really interesting to Thomas Cromwell, into his life, his backstory, even into other characters' backstories that were interesting, but overall it was just not for me. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman gave this book a 5 stars. It was a really, really good book. It would have to have one of the best mother-daughter relationships of any book I've read. I don't think I've read too many books with mother-daughter relationships, but this would have to be the best I think I have ever read. It was so loving and supporting between the mother and daughter. It felt realistic to me. You could tell that they had a really good relationship. The topic of college and university felt like a really, really personal one, and I think is a really, really important subject and topic to talk about. As a teenager, in your last few years of high school, you get so much pressure to want to go to university or to be forced to go to university. And I think that topic is something a lot of younger people can relate to. Maybe even some older people can relate to as well, just because we've all been through it, you know? And as I was reading the book, I was wondering if Alice Oseman had any sort of real-life experiences with this, because it felt genuinely personal. Like, the character reactions, the character interactions with the interview process of this university, of getting into university, and something that I was wondering if Alice Oseman had any experience with, and she did talk about it a bit at the end of the book, talking about it in the author's note, I believe. It goes to show, because she knew the system, she knew what was involved with the interview process with universities or colleges, and she knew and she knows herself that not everyone can go to uni. Not everyone can go to uni and do incredible intellectual things. It's not for everyone. I think schools need to do a better job at helping younger people find a job outside of high school. Not everyone has the intellect to go to university or to college, any other sort of tertiary education. Not everyone is capable of getting the necessary intellect or the grades to get into it. And that was something that was talked about a bit as well, just that schools need to do better with helping kids, find some support, as soon as they leave high school, if they don't want to go to university or college. I know I didn't, and I think it was the best decision for me, because I was really struggling the last 2 years of high school. I just did not think I could do more study. I really didn't. I was actually thinking of dropping out of high school. It was too much, but I feel like I was doing the wrong subjects. I really do. I was doing the wrong subjects. It was just a lot for me. Not everyone. And they really, really force you and push you to get at that academic level. Not everyone is academic. No one is academic. A lot of people are not academic, you know? And schools don't cater to that to other students. They just don't. And it was really good to see that there were people in this book that were happy and thriving and living a really good life, that didn't go to university. They were getting a job, they were being an adult, they were living a little bit more of a stress-free life, like they didn't have to worry about debt, paying off their HEX fees or tuition fees, and not having to worry if their degree was going to get them a job, not knowing if their degree will actually get them a job. And it was really, really freaking good. I think I will be thinking about this book a lot. The chapters were nice and short, so it was like very quick to read. The pacing was good as well. The writing was really good as well. And it also talks about the dark side of education as well. And it really was a fantastic, fantastic book. Make Your Bed by William H. McRaven. I gave this book 4 stars. It is one of the first books I read for a self-help reading vlog, but I would not consider this book to be self-help. Like, this book is more of a memoir / life lesson, life inspiration kind of book. And it was about this author's time being in the SEAL division of the military. Just a lot of the things that he goes through, a lot of the mental and physical challenges that he goes through, and how he overcomes that. I'm not going to talk about it into great detail here because I will talk about it a little bit more in my reading vlog that I've read this book in. Even though I would not categorize this book as being self-help, I still think there is a lot of things that can really help people by reading this book, just teaching you discipline, how to overcome things, kind of getting you into the mentality to do the little things to push yourself and to succeed in life with what you want to do. And it's really hard to paraphrase this book because it's a small book. It's like a little over 100 pages. So I'll leave my full thoughts for the reading vlog, but I do think this book can help a lot of people in a lot of ways. Atomic Habits by James Clear. 5 stars, absolutely life-changing. It's inspiring. It's so freaking easy to follow. It felt like it changed my brain chemistry up quite a bit with how I look at doing habits and creating good habits and getting rid of bad ones. I recommend this book to everyone because it is so good. There's also the inclusion of neuroscience, psychology. Don't worry about feeling like you need to know those subjects in great detail because it is written in an easily accessible, easy to understand manner, so it's easy to follow. It's kind of like dumbed down a bit where you're not feeling like you need to be smart to understand what's happening because it's easy to follow. The author also includes his experiences with creating habits. He includes everyday people and their experience with creating habits and getting rid of bad ones, what worked for them, what didn't, whether they tweaked certain things to suit them. So their experiences really enhanced the book, and I'm actually not going to talk too much about this book because, like I just said, I do have a reading vlog where I read self-help books, whether they are good, whether they can actually help you. So this book and the next book I'm going to talk to you about, I will leave a link in the description, also in the video about that reading vlog I did if you want to check out more thoughts, opinions that I have. I go into like a little bit of detail in that reading vlog, so if you want to check that out, please do. And honestly, looking back on it, I don't think I was really entirely happy with how I structured that video. I felt like I could have gone more in depth, but then if I had have gone more in depth, I would have spoiled the book. Watch that reading vlog, I talk about it a bit more. The last book I read for this self-help / productivity reading vlog is Slow Productivity by Newport. 2 stars, but those 2 stars were because it was not for me. I was not the target audience. It really dives deep into people in the knowledge sector, people who have their own business. So if you're a freelancer, a solopreneur, if you're a boss in a company, it talks about how we need to slow down with the amount of work we put for ourselves. It talks about the pandemic and how much harder it was and how people felt the need to rush work and get everything done and just create more work for themselves because we're at home now. In the pandemic, we were at home, we had all the time kind of thing, and it was just a really stressful time. So there were aspects that were good, and there were tips and tricks that were also really good and that I felt resonated with me. Just largely this book was not for me at all. I was not the target audience for this. Fair warning, there is a lot of life story, a lot of little mini biographies of famous people. We got Jane Austen, Benjamin Franklin, the guy that created CSI, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and about how they used a slow productivity and about how they created like the best works that they could because they took their time, they didn't rush. They really like focused in on the things that they were good at, and they just really zoned in on what they knew how to do good things, and they reworked things that didn't work for them. So there were some really interesting parts. Those mini autobiographies were interesting. It was just really bogged down. It really bogged the book down for me. Like, it could have been said in like a few chapters. We did not need to know every single, well, what felt like every single aspect of these people. I do sort of recommend this book to only to certain specific people, because I do think it has some value, just not to someone like me who was not in those industries. Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amie Kaufman gave this 4 stars. I thought it was a really good introduction into the world and the characters. Young adult sci-fi it is. It's really action-packed. Seeing Aurora's powers and getting little bits of information throughout the book on what she has and what it could potentially mean for the galaxy, for the universe, even for the characters that we follow. I really liked seeing the interactions with the characters. They're a bunch, let me tell you that. It reminds me a little bit in a way to Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's just unlikely people coming together, pretty much being a found family in a way. And each species, each race has different customs, different ways of how they interact. Their culture is different, and that was really good to see. I loved seeing that. But also, like I said, with their interactions with one another, it was really good because they were kind of like hesitant at first. They really weren't as close as they were or are now at the end of the book, and probably at the end of the series. And at the end, I really did feel like they became friends. It did feel like a bit of a found family trope in that kind of sense. I love it when there is some sort of ancient being, when there is some sort of ancient magic, ancient technology that we don't know if it's true or not. Some of these characters have heard stories, some of these characters think it's real, some of them think it's just children's tales. There's a lot in it, and they're slowly being revealed to us through each chapter, through each part. This book is split up into 3 parts, and all of those parts were really fantastic. The 3rd part, however, part 3, had really strong Annihilation vibes, like the Netflix movie Annihilation, well, the Netflix adaptation Annihilation. And the Jeff Vandermeer book, I'm assuming. I haven't read the Jeff Vandermeer book, but I would really like to. There was a twist. A bit of a twist I did not see coming. Some of the characters were in really dire situations. I did not know if they were going to get out of it. But that twist, oh my gosh, I did not see that coming. It was so well written, very well done. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the first book. I'm hoping to enjoy the second one. We'll see what happens, because I'm just so intrigued on what's going to happen. And I just want to quickly mention I am still reading this book, Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. I'm nearly at the halfway mark. There's just been a lot going on. It's a very stressful time in this household. There's been a lot going on. I really haven't been focusing on reading much, unfortunately. I wasn't sure whether to continue this book in May. I wasn't sure whether to put this book in my May TBR, because I could have read the remainder of this book the last 2 days of April. I was so hooked, so gripped, but now I'm getting really scared. I'm going to continue reading this in May. Thank you for watching, everyone. Did you enjoy any of these books I have read? Have you read them before? What books have you read in the month of April? I would like to know, and did you enjoy them? I will see you in another video. Bye for now.